y'all, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and today we're coming at you with a new series, Should I Move Here? Lots of times when folks move to the great state of North Carolina, they kind of battle on which town or city is the best one, or which location within our great state they should move to. Mountains, Piedmont, or beach. So today we're going to tackle that last little one. We're going to talk about the mountains versus the beach versus where we currently are, which is in the Piedmont region. So we're going to break it down over what it looks like to buy a home, build a home, and potentially some other needs you might have if you're in those particular locations. So for example, a big one is affordability, cost of living, what the median home prices are. NAR, the National Association of Realtors, actually has a ton of resources that I highly encourage you to go check out. Type in that question and then add that tag NAR, and you can find some great manipulative maps that can actually show you all the different metros in comparison to one another in real time. So if we're to move to the coast, a big thing that we think about with coastal living is obviously there's lots of beach options. A lot of folks who are moving to North Carolina don't realize just how accessible these beaches are. And they range from places that are super commercial versus folks that are places that have never actually been developed. As far as the insurance needs here, a big one that you're going to have to look at is flood zones, hurricane damage. You're also going to have to deal with some riparian buffers. So what is that? It means proximity to any body of water that actually cannot be manipulated or developed. So let's say you find a great piece of land that's really close to the beach, but potentially there's some kind of vegetation buffer that actually can't be touched. You may not be able to build that huge home that you are kind of putting your eyes on because the property and its proximity to the beach looks great. Something else to consider is access to city sewer and water. Those of us who are coming from city locations are actually very used to having those. Well, if you're moving to the beach, like for example in the Wilmington area, you might actually need to be on well water. So this is something you want to dive a little bit deeper on when you're looking at these particular homes, is finding out, are they on septic? Are they on well? Is it a combination of the two? Or do you have access to kind of city sewer and water situation? So something else that's really popular out on the coast is beach music festivals. So if you haven't had the chance to listen to that type of music, highly recommend jumping on Spotify and checking that out, because every summer you're going to see that across the great state, but especially in the coastal region. So let's go ahead and shift to the mountains here. If you're shopping in the mountains, you're obviously going to have access to mountain peaks as well as the valleys. Both of those two different styles of living come with a lot of different parameters. Another big one is the fact that, again, going back to utility access, water access, and sewer access. When you're building on the side of a mountain or up on a mountain range, things can get a little bit more complicated. So you do need to make sure that all of these vendors that you're hoping to utilize actually have the ability to install these things if you're looking to build a home. Obviously, with resale homes, a big one that you need to look at is the age of the home. Something that the mountain region deals with a lot more than the Piedmont or even the coastal region is the freeze point. So you might have pipes, for example, that have been installed in that home for decades, and they've frozen over and over again over the course of many harsh winters, and you're going to actually deal with some leaking or water damage. So you want to make sure, again, you're looking at the back history of the home to kind of find out what's been going on since its inception. Something that the mountain region definitely offers is kind of a cultural vibe with a lot of artisans. So you'll have downtown spaces like Asheville or Franklin, North Carolina, that not only have really cool festivals, but you're going to see a lot more artwork and local vendors. Another big thing as far as insurance is concerned with the mountains is, again, going back to your winter storm damage and making sure that you have coverage for those types of things. There's also some fun festivals like the Woolly Worm Festival that, if you've gotten familiar with the Farmer's Almanac, you can actually see what kind of winter we're going to have by these fuzzy little caterpillars that we have all over this state of North Carolina. So let's shift into the Piedmont region. So the Piedmont is actually where we're located. The Piedmont has a couple of major metros that typically draw folks from other states. One big hub is Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a big banking city. It's also where the Carolina Panthers are located. And then you also have the Triad and the Triangle. The Triad kind of boasts High Point, Greensboro, Winston-Salem. Cost of living in the Triad is definitely a little bit lower than Charlotte or in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area, which is known as the Triangle. That's where we are. Average home prices in the Triad are in the mid 200s, where average home prices here in the Triangle are actually in the mid 400s. So that's something to consider when you're moving here to the great state of North Carolina. What's your driver? What's your passion? And what kind of lifestyle are you hoping to have while you're here? If you're focusing on the triangle, something that's really cool with the lifestyle is we have access to a major downtown space while still having lots of rural areas that are really accessible to downtown. As far as transportation and travel, there's public transportation that's already readily accessibly available. Something else is that we do have some professional sports teams here like the Carolina Hurricanes, lots of local museums, access to parks, greenways, and another huge driver is the big school system. So Wake County, which is the largest county here, and we're not talking about your secondary counties, we're talking about Wake County, which is where Raleigh, North Carolina is located. Wake County Public School System is actually the largest school system in the Southeast. Charlotte-Mecklenburg is actually the second. So if that's also a big driver and one of the reasons why you're moving here, as well as business growth and development, that is something to consider when you're trying to play the comparison game between mountains, coast, or the Piedmont. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop those in the comment or send us a direct message. All of our contact info will be located at the bottom of this episode, and we'll see you next time. All right, y'all, thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like, share, and follow us on Instagram as well as YouTube. We're also on Apple Podcasts. Again, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate.